Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Extreme Studios in the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have from the great Midwest one, RDV, who I've invited with me tonight, as well as all of you joining the chat in a very special exploitation movie of the 70s. It's a special case because, like Impulse with William Shatner from the 70s, this is a glorious, low budget, super micro budget oddity of a film that has a double amputee as a hitman for a drug lord in mid to late 70s Tampa. And the people that did this, for the older listeners who know Central Florida well, they were done by the Flipper guys and the people from the Creature from the Black Lagoon, which those are all Florida products here too. So
Yep.
RDV, I got to say, we kind of stumbled upon this, I think, a little bit by accident, checking a few things out with martial arts films and all that. We'll talk about the movie, but I will say this. This is not a bad movie. And it turns out the heavy in here, the hitman, he's actually a legit martial artist with several black belt type levels in a few different forms, with literally two legs missing because he lost them after being injured in the Korean War. The guy was legit, and I think it came across in this movie. As weird as it sounds, being in the wheelchair, and as goofy as it sounds, the guy did have an intensity with him that definitely showed up on screen.
Mr. Ted Vollrath, you're talking about.
Yes.
And then obviously down the bottom left, that's Richard Jaeckel. Or Jaeckel.
I don't know if it's Jaeckel. I just say Jaeckel because Jaeckel sounds cooler.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, we're just going through movies, and I was looking at some other IMDb. IMDb kind of like recommends, like, oh, you might like this, and I came across this. I was like, Rob, you ever heard of this before? And it's in Florida.
I'm surprised because I haven't. And I've heard of some, like one of the zombie movies was filmed like in South Florida, over on the West Coast down there, kind of like in the Fort Myers area too. And you can kind of tell when you're looking at it, it's Florida.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few things, of course, but these low budget things, I was really impressed with some of the scenery because I've got some familiarity with the Tampa Bay area. And as we talk about some of the scenes, obviously I'll make mention of some there too. But again, first watch for me, for what it is, it's an okay movie with some good things into it.
Yep.
And we've seen worse, as bad and low budget this is too. But for you, I'm curious, how did it strike you?
So I'm comparing this to like what I would have seen like in Miami Vice and stuff of that. Seeing kind of the Florida era stuff, and how they handle it. These are Vice cops, they're going after drug busts. And honestly, the goons act the same way they acted in Miami Vice. The only thing that was extreme was Ted Vollrath, being in a wheelchair, and then it pops open. You just see him there. There are two shotguns, two double barrel shotguns.
Yeah.
And he is very good at what he does. He's not a pushover. He's not a lackey. He's the right hand man for this. What we call him in Miami Vice, he's the villain of the week, yuppie, who thinks he's in charge of everything, but it's actually Ted who's in charge of everything. Ted is the one that basically, he's old school mob, where the other guy's like, we don't do that anymore. We don't go around bumping up people. He's like, he basically calls him a pussy in the movie. That's what I loved about it. And he's badass. He's in a wheelchair. He's got no legs, and he's taking out guys. Like, he's just like doing these flips off the wheelchair, and just like he's got ninja stars on the hubcap is where his wheelchair spokes is. He throws those shurikens, and he's taking out guys twice the size because they have legs, and he's taking them down. They get knocked into a pool, and he chokes out one guy and kills him under the pool there. He's got one loyal guy that helps him out in the movie. I thought that was kind of funny.
He's a B-level, and that guy's claim to fame shouldn't have been this movie. It should have been being a B-level imposter of Elvis, who was still popular way back in the 70s.
Yeah, but I gotta say though, I love what's it called? The Seven Seas bar here. We get these two women going at it, all because one of them, bumps into the other one or something like that, and then we get the N-word, we get the honky, we get like they're fighting, they're breaking bottles, they're holding chairs.
It's one of the worst bar fights of all time.
Oh my gosh! Well, it's choreography. It's like CW level.
It's quarter speed.
Yeah. Regardless, so I thought it was okay for decent for what it was. It's low budget. Didn't have to be fancy. Honestly, I like the fact because the one girl starts, the white girl choking out the black girl, and she starts using like the phone cord. I'm like, yes. I'm like, you're next to a payphone. Like I'm waiting for it. You know what's gonna happen. They do it. They don't care. They get into it. It's basically the Seven Seas is where it's like live go dancing and all that stuff. And even the bartender just like hits people over the head with a bottle. And at the end of the day, he doesn't give a shit. He ain't going to jail. But I mean, it's like it's I love it. It's kind of like the we go back to what was the one with Chuck Norris where he had he had the bar fight.
Which movie? I mean,
I know, no,
Firewalker. I mean,
no, it's not Firewalker. No, it's the one where the guy is he can't kill the guy. The guy comes back to the dead.
Oh, you're talking the sci-fi one there from 1981, 82.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah. You're right with the dopey guy from Animal House. Yes.
And the reason I love it because the fact that it's like same soundstage, everything breaks easily.
Yes.
The door, a guy gets pushed into the door and it buckles in. It's like paper thin. I was just like this is what I love. Like if you're going to destroy everything, and that's what's great about this movie. You get a car chase at the end. You see a guy pulling the trailer. There's a car chase, cars speeding with the cops.
Pulling up. No barrels of fruit.
Going through it.
Exactly.
It.
Yes.
It's like Smokey and the Bandit in a sense. The way they're doing the car scene at the end. And it was just great, then now they have the guy, because back then people get ice deliveries and block stuff still. Mm-hmm. So that's how the chase scene ends. The truck pulls away and he hits the block's ice and it crushes his car instantly. And it hits a cop car. I'm like, I've never seen it before. Where actually a car smashes into a pile of just just looks like dry ice, stacked up in cubes. I thought that was brilliant. I said for being a low budget, it's got it's did pretty well. It's got the 70s music. It's like I like it. Old school cars, no smartphones.
Oh my god! So before we even dive into some of the stuff here that's popping, let me just give the setup for the movie here. So basically, what it is we start off the movie and we're going to an old-fashioned cigar factory where they're rolling up drugs and cigars to pass them on because they're being sold out of an ice cream van, right? By people wearing Canadian tuxedos. Yeah, and so there's just a bunch of long scenes in here. This is one of them. Yeah. But we get this set up and we meet the heavy dude who's the main drug dealer. And he's a charismatic guy. He's got the pool party going on at the house, talking to everybody. And there's a guy that works for him who's girl he accidentally kills when they get in an argument because she finds out he's hiding drugs and this and that. And it's an accident. It's like
Wilson, I think his name is.
It's like it's the second episode of season 1 of Columbo where Robert Culp accidentally kills the lady, right? It's like that. So he calls in the hitman, who's Mr. No Legs, and to kind of fix it. So they're like, yeah, let's get the body. They inject her with drugs. And of course, it's a fairly simple plot where the police later on are going to find out that the drugs are ingested post-mortem. And for me, well, yeah, but it's they shoot him too. And here's the thing. Even though they advertise this guy in a wheelchair and everything on the poster, he's not in the movie a lot. And that's a good thing because you get one little, like we talked about in our martial arts movies over the past month or so.
The 3 scenes, actually.
Right. The scenes that he's in, he gives you a different look. One of them he's working out. Another one he's killing people by the pool, which is a great scene. Another one he's blasting people with the built-in shotguns. The guy's not screwing around. But what's interesting about this movie is it's pretty typical. The girl's related to a police officer, it's a sister. So his partner, which is Richard the Jaeckel, who you've seen on TV, if you know who I'm talking about, he's a solid performance. This guy's kind of the worst part about not Richard, but his partner Andy.
Rance,
but some of the things in this movie that just are glorious, not just the sweet cars, the Camaro, the Stingray. The guy coming out, you forgot to mention in a Seven Seas bar or wherever it was at with a broadsword attacking him in the car. That's great stuff.
It was on the wall.
Yeah, and he just grabs it and it's like, what the fuck am I seeing here? I haven't seen something like that with a car.
If you're wondering who Richard Jaeckel is, he's from Airplane 2. He's also Pat Carey, the Billy Kid, The Dirty Dozen, and Starman.
He's been in a lot.
Those are big 4 claims to fame.
Yeah.
But China Beach, all those, shows back in the day, Murder She Wrote, Dirty Dozen, the Next Mission, all that stuff. So and he's a good looking dude for a lead guy. Even though he's like Andy's the one, his sister. Like, you know, he's on
When
revenge.
you watch 70s movies, I could feel how oppressively hot and humid and sticky it was because
Oh yeah.
everybody looks like they have horrible skin, just and they're sun-kissed so bad, and that's part of the joys
I,
is you're like,
I,
no, this is real Florida. You know what I'm
I got
saying?
I got something to ask you. How long were the cords for the phones back there, back in the day?
Quartz, I'm not joking. If you had a quartz, say, like in your kitchen, which is like the centerpiece, because where you saw was a lot of old Tampa, which is old Florida, a lot of it built in the
Phone jack
40s and
and all that
50s,
stuff.
the phone jack and all that. First of all, there was two lengths. There was the length of the connection of the phone to the of the old style phone to the so like the wall where you had it. That could be a foot or two or several feet. But then you had the connection of the twirly connection that would slip in onto the phone itself as well as the receiver. And that could easily be 10 feet and it could stretch 20 feet. Not a lie, not a joke, not an
That was
exaggeration.
crazy. I mean, you see twice. You see the bad guy,
That's
Ted,
legit.
he actually picked up his phone and then he wheels away. I'm like, how long is this line going? Is it
Those
plugged in?
happen. That was not uncommon. I'm serious.
I know, but I'm like, I still have a landline phone. I've had a couple. I just never knew that they were that freaking long, where you could just take it like from the house all the way outside and just keep going until the next street over.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because you mentioned the cars, but here's the other thing too. When they go to this bar, it's a very multicultural bar, which in
Oh, yes,
1975 would not have happened, except for it's in a questionable side of town, because they have the transvestite in there who's being picked up by a guy who looks like your average middle class Joe who's a creep.
wasn't
You have the
that
vertically challenged individual in there, as well as the black and white woman cat fight going on, which of course they resort to a lot of hair pulling and all that.
I want to point out though the whole guy in drag being hit on by the guy buying a bar and stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Did that not remind you of Bachelor Party? Same thing happened.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, it's because
out there, just so random.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I liked here in this first act, when Mr. No Legs whacks them both and takes care of the bodies, they bury the bodies, right?
Yeah.
And when they're burying the bodies, two things struck me. One, they're doing it at night, and you can hear like the crickets and stuff. That's what it sounds like here in the summer in Florida when it's hot, for the most part. Yep. And the other thing too is I thought that I don't want to say soundtrack, but I'll say the score for it was not horrible or overdone. This movie is super low budget. If you went to school in the 70s, 80s, or even 90s, and you watched older films on the reels, and they had the little splotchy things where you'd see the hair cut in the corner and a line going through it, this movie has that. Does not bother me at all. So it kind of meanders, but then I'm aghast because I'm like, the 70s style with the turtlenecks, the polyester, the cars were awesome, the mutton chops, the half-top crop shirts for the guys, the wife beaters on a few of them. But the thing is the main guy whose sisters died, Andy, I say girlfriend, his main squeeze, the one that looks like not Trudy, but the other one on Miami Vice, but it's not her. I looked that up.
It was, I know it did look at her at first.
They go to her house, and it's like, that's not just a big fat bearskin rug that she's laying on where they're going to make sweet whoopee. The whole floor is one gigantic like
rug,
polar bear rug, and the whole mirror, the whole wall is a mirror. That's awesome.
I couldn't tell if there's a mattress buried under all that fur and stuff. Kind of looked like it, but maybe there wasn't. But I mean, obviously he works at the club, and he's a cop, and it felt like I was walking into a James Bond thing, didn't it? James Bond villain room. Here's like Pussy Galore, and here's her bedroom, and it's just all this fancy like fur everywhere and stuff. And then where's Bond? They slowly pan and they look over, they see clothes everywhere, and then they see Bond, in bed, shirtless, with the hot babe on all the fur.
Exactly.
I was like, this is a James Bond kind of like film, like in sense.
Again, the people that wrote it and directed it did Flipper. They were involved in The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Those are Florida products. I think Black Lagoon was filmed in Ocala, I want to say. And some other stuff was filmed in Florida too. So it's, when you look at the type of shots, they're not bad. But the thing that I thought was pretty cool is when you see Mr. No Legs, like I say in each time, an interesting thing develops that you would not get in these movies. So it's the scene that you're talking about where poolside, the main guy's there in a suit, which would never happen here in the state of Florida, having his breakfast. Mr. No Legs is sitting there, and some really tall, leggy, stacked, Swedish-looking blondes checking him out. She's getting all kind of wet, smiling at him. That doesn't say a word. The phone rings. And then he goes out there with that, I would say, excessively long extension cord, but that was
Yeah.
pretty typical by those standards. Gives it to the boss. The boss is like, "Didn't I tell you not to interrupt me while I'm having breakfast?" And he takes the phone, he answers it, and he says something to him. And he's kind of berating a little bit, like
Yeah, and
you're
that's
fucking up or whatever. You have an alpha thing going on here, him versus the guy in the wheelchair, and you're like,
yeah, and
don't fuck with the guy in the
the
wheelchair, he'll
guy,
kill you.
the main boss is Lloyd Bochner. For those who watch the Batman animated series, he was Mayor Hamilton. So he did the voice for that. That's where he's kind of more known for that than anything else, really.
A strong voice, a solid presence. He wasn't
Yeah,
just a stupid, a
very
heavy guy.
charming, kind of like a British, almost kind of like a he's also was on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. He was on what was the other one he did? Naked Gun and a Half.
The Smell of Fear.
Smell of Fear. He's Baggett in there. Point blank.
Here's the thing I'm going to say about him.
Yep.
He's better than some of the more recent Bond villains who absolutely had zero oomph to him at all. This guy carried himself well. He was believable in his role of being the major drug lord in that questionable side of Tampa.
Yeah, and I kept thinking, like, this could be like as well as the man with the golden gun, so that he doesn't get his hands dirty.
Right. And like I say, what's interesting here at this point, and you don't realize it till later in the movie, is that you got this guy that he hires to kind of clean up stuff here because, he doesn't want him to be a full part of his crew, not because he's handicapped, but because he does things the old way. The thing is I got to give Ted a lot of credit, the guy that plays in here in the wheelchair. He was a guy that, when I read up on him, I'd never heard about him before, and he was in Korea, whether, believe in war and all that stuff. That was the thing here where a lot of Korean vets came back. He had injuries to both his legs, and after 10, 12 years or like that, they had to amputate him. But he's literally like the first guy that's got a couple different black belts in forms of, karate or taekwondo, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like basically the guy that kind of started the whole, no, you can be an amputee or somebody in the wheelchair and still train and practice martial arts. And the thing about him that I'm definitely going to point out here is, regardless of the gimmick, which I think is the initial attraction to it when you watch the trailer that we put out a couple days ago, is that we mentioned before with Chuck Norris and the people that are legit and they have a certain charisma, like a Cynthia Rothrock or whatever, regardless of how they look or how good they are as an actual actor. But what translates presence-wise on film is their confidence and their ability to do stuff because it's second nature. And this guy, even though he's in a wheelchair and he doesn't have to talk that much or say something, when you look at his eyes, he's staring at you, the guy's intimidating. And you're laughing going, oh, no guy in a wheelchair is going to be intimidating. And I would challenge you to find this film on wherever you can, because it's a tough find, but it's out there, and disagree with that. So I thought, gimmick aside, holy shit, the guy is legit. He's not just, it wasn't just a gimmick and they found somebody willing to play it. Because I'm not going to lie to you, I thought this was going to be the Tim Conway, a guy from the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or like that, playing the dwarf man kind of thing, where it was literally just, let's film him with his legs, kind of in the ground and doing stupid stuff as a gimmick. It's not that. I did not know that when I watched this film. And I went, no, this guy's a legit, a double amputee. And so it's amazing because as it kind of meanders through the second act while they're piecing together in a very deliberate pace of, wait a minute, this wasn't an accident. It's funny because there's a nice little piece of writing here where Richard is in there talking to the captain, and he's looking at like a photo. It's like, hey, you want us going 70 miles an hour or something like that? He's like, yeah, those days are behind me or whatever like that. And the captain, Hatch, assigns them to this case. Well, later on, when they go to find, when they find the body in the morgue and the baddies show up in it, and there's like a really lame fight or whatever, and they kind of get away. That's when they put some pieces together because they're on stakeouts. Like when they're staking out the pimp in the red suit, and they're talking about his platform shoes and all that and stuff. You're like, well, wait a minute. How did they know this is the Wilson boy? I never used that name. That old cliche, right? Yeah. So they're going, wait a minute. There's going to be a spy in the department. So you got a couple things going on here. They're like, okay, but it's working at this point, don't you think?
Yep. And did you recognize the guy who played Lou?
Maybe.
That's Ron Howard's dad. That's Lance Howard.
That's Opie's dad, or
yeah, Opie. That's his dad, real life dad.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was because I was watching it and I was like, he kind of looks familiar. And I started going through the cast. I'm like, Lance Howard. I'm like, oh, that's him. So yeah, that he's Lou. He's because Lou was the guy who basically was in charge of getting the delivery shipping note, and then he had the kid, but then the kid's girlfriend ends up getting killed by him. So then, so Mr. Lowlegs kills the kid, and they basically then he was tasked later on to get the body from the morgue because they don't want the police to connect to everything. He dresses up and then goes to the ambulance to get another guy, and they go down there, and then they go in the morgue. The rough housing, they're gonna steal the body, but then the cops show up, and then they quick flee. You know. So it was interesting to see another name attached to this, and
wow, the poxmark give it away now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and I kept watching this. I kept thinking, like, why isn't Richard Jaeckel Felix Leiter? Whereas he could have been American Bond, you know.
Yeah, solid if not unspectacular kind of person, but he's a good anchor for the film because there's definitely some performances to go, wow, Richard really outshines them all, and he's not necessarily an A-lister, even though he's been gainfully employed for a long time.
He kept thinking, like, I'm like, this is like the American Roger Moore.
Maybe.
He had the scar. He had the ascot. Don't you remember? He had the ascot.
He did. And there's turtlenecks. There's a lot of '70s fashion in here. I think it's not on display so much as it's just this is just our regular wear. Let's put it on because we got to go shoot a scene. Well, one of the things too is that as they're piecing stuff together, you start feeling like the walls are closing a little bit. But it's for both people. They're getting closer to the killer. But there's a great scene where Mr. No Legs and his Elvis impersonator buddy. You know, he goes there and he goes to hang the phone up and he's all pissed. He says to him, "Screw this guy telling me I'm gonna take everything he's got." And the guy's like, "What do you want me to do, boss?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna have a double cross. Not that he's gonna be a good guy or that stupid phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend bullshit." It's like, oh, we got a little subplot going on here too. This is cool. So we got the spy subplot. We've got them investigating, which is kind of boring. We got the swinging singles bachelorette pad with the bearskin rug and fur rugs that we see several times. We don't have any really sweet lovemaking, unfortunately, or gross nudity, which is really stopping me from giving this an A. The violence is pretty shocking, but here's the thing I always talk about with movies. One, you got to have a hook. I love the opening hook with the cigar rolling because that's an authentic Tampa thing. I totally can relate to all that. The building's authentic. I think it was an old cigar manufacturing company. There's still a few of them over there in that area. I may have been to this one too. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look it up. But in the second act, I'm like, I've always said in the third act, I hate it when it goes down to like just the guns or this or that or something meaningless where they go simple. So what happens here in this third act? Well, we get a plot line with Mr. No Legs, which we'll talk about here in a moment, and we get a surprising way to end the film, which we only briefly touched upon. But before we get there, I wanted to segue off to this and talk a little bit about the whole wheelchair use in this movie. Okay, so we saw the bar fight, the cat fight with the two ladies. I like you agree totally trying to strangle somebody where she's spitting up blood with the cord wrapped around her neck. That's good stuff, right?
Yeah.
I understand that the violence level should be kind of dark and graphic, but the effects weren't special. But I like how he had the little knife and they zoomed on him and he gutted the girl and then he just kind of like willed out when the big bar fight broke out. We see a scene later on where, again, super stacked hottie blonde is sitting there and all that, and the phone rings and she goes to give it to him and she's like she's basically saying, "Do me," but not before you see him doing handstands in the wheelchair, right? The dude's in shape. You can tell by the way he is, even though he's missing a chunk of his body. But this guy's like, "Get lost, babe." And I'm like, fuck, he's not screwing around. He's not being cute or coy or whatever. Because I thought there was a little thing there, like she was going to be a factor because she's so obvious in the movie, right? She really stands out. But she says nothing. She's just there to look pretty. Okay, fine. But we get the scene here where the drug lord's basically like, "Hey, screw Mr. No Legs. I'm inviting him over here. You guys take care of business, but wait a minute until I leave." So he leaves and they're at this middle to upscale, middle class, home with an exposed pool or whatever like that. But Mr. No Legs knows what's coming, right? Oh. So you see everybody kind of nodding. And then this is the big fight scene that you'll see on the internet for the clip, where there's some slow motion stuff where you're laughing like, really? But I have to say this, and I'm trying not to mark out too much. I liked it. I liked it when the two big guys went grab him and you're like, what are you going to do with the guy in the wheelchair? You're going to dump his ass in the pool, right? So the two guys get in there. But he hits somebody in the left throat, and then he chokes the other dude out in the pool, and the camera shot in the pool. I'm like, that's good shit. Am I wrong?
No. So I don't know if you mentioned his name. Ricou Browning is the guy who basically was a screenwriter, or he was a director for this. He was the guy originally in the Creature from the Black Lagoon,
Yeah.
all the sequels, and of course he got involved with Flipper.
Mm-hmm.
The kid though, that gets bumped off in here, he's the kid from Flipper. That's Luke Halpin.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not do a deep dive. I try not to with some of these
I
things,
tried
right?
to. Former American actor, stuntman, and Marine coordinator, diver, and pilot. Became child actor age 8, widely known for his Sandy Ricks. It features Flipper and Flipper's New Adventure, as well as reprising his role in the TV series adaptation Flipper. So that's gets bumped off.
Wow. Wow. No, it's pretty interesting because it turns out that Mr. No Legs told his boss, hey, such and such wants to meet you at such and such place. And he's going to have him taken out by his guys. And then that kind of doesn't really go as planned.
No.
And then as we get towards the end, you know, he tries to double cross him to show up to kill him on his own. And he gets one of the guys, but he dies. And like, I wasn't expecting that. So you got about 15 minutes left in the movie. What do? Fuck it. Let's have the longest car chase, I think, in that. This is legit 12, 13 movies on the print that I watched it on. Not gonna lie, and it's gratuitous. It does everything you mentioned at the beginning. I'm thought, you know what? The way they film this, especially by mid to late 70s, it's not bad. It really is not a bad chase scene.
No,
it feels fast. It looks fast. You feel like you're in the cars, and some of the shots you're really close to it. There's no goofy, stupid stuff like you get in James Bond movies. For the most part, and the ice was kind of interesting at the end too.
Yeah,
that would work.
But it's it's always a car scene. There's those cars crashing. The bridge gets lit up because there's tugboats going to go in there to lift the bridge up. They jump off the bridge. When the last cop car ends up going on top of these other 4 cars that were going there, and they're all angry at him, yelling at him. It's like, and he keeps cutting away to the dispatcher, telling him. So then you see the cop when he has like goggles on the helmet, and he has the gloves, and he's got to chase them. And then like it's just so cool. And then I said that very last couple of, you think, okay, this is where they're gonna get him. You see the guy pulling the trailer. He's got the big old long camper for like construction vehicles. That's basically where they work out of as far as the offices are. He's pulling it. I'm like, oh, he's gonna go through it. And he swerves at the last minute. I'm like, dang it! But then here comes the cop car. Whoosh! I'm like, yes. I just love car chases like that. It's either whether it's Dukes of Hazzard, or Smokey and the Bandits. When they pull something like that, someone's going through it, and I just love stunts like that. And that's great. I need more of those.
They did a really good job of not trying to do too much. I honestly don't think when you watch this movie, they weren't being tongue in cheek, which I doubt that would have killed it for me, right? Because it's already exploitive and all that. For what it is, it's not bad. And I think I counted it up, and there's maybe 25 to 30 people total. That's writer, directors, grips, actors, actresses, hairstyle, makeup, whatever you name it. For what they produced, it's almost admirable in a way. Like, wow, we've seen some stuff lately that I go, I'd much rather watch this than some of that other shit, even if it's just a one-time only. I mean, I saw Arthur the King, the dog movie with Marky Mark lately, right? And it's pretty hammy, it's pretty boring, it's pretty nothing or whatever like that. You watch it because it's the stupid dog and the ending. And the only thing I thought that was cool about it at the end was, well, shit. I kept yelling at the screen going, there's no way a dog's going to follow you and all that. But apparently it was based off a true story. And you and I have talked about wholesome movies. It's one of those kind of movies. So for what it is, it's okay. And so there's certain things that go with it. Just like with Hallmark movies, right? There's a certain way that they're produced in this and that. So judging them just based off of that, some people might be like, oh, you got to judge it based on everything. Well, if that's the case, I guarantee you, if you went to go see this on a drive-in, it would not be that bad of a movie, even if you're making out to it or something.
So the other thing about this movie is the way it's shot. Marani had brought up something about, briefly throughout the film, times where people were directors supposed to swap the reels.
Yep.
There was crackles. There was a line. I love the line. You see the line going down. This is very much Grindhouse.
Yeah.
I love it. And I unfortunately, not a lot of people have probably heard of this, even though it is slowly getting a cult status. I've been reading online, but I feel like it's still a niche thing. I do recommend to people, if you've not checked this out, check it out. You'll not be disappointed. Watch with the friends, get some popcorn. It's great. I'm not gonna say it's the best movie, but it's one of those movies that are so awful, but you want to keep continuing watching because you're just having so much fun. There, it kind of like cancels it out. I mean, it's like I said, it's not the best storyline. It's kind of like A to B. It's the effort they put into this, the craziness. The guy's got legs. He's going around. He's kicking. He's beating up people. He's got shotguns. It is just over the top silliness, but it's awesome. I love it.
But if this movie were like half of him, or he's the main character, I think it would have fizzled out.
Well, so they bill it as Terry being like, or Ted being like the main guy, taking on Enforcer. He's Enforcer for this, and like when you find out that he's actually just a heavy, and he's not like the main guy, I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I was just like, if it's just him going this and like doing John Wick style, I don't know if I'd watch it as much. But I mean, having it in spurts, and then hear that the movie, and then just kind of being like the silent heavy and just blowing people away, and the darkness rolls out and like, what the heck? Guy in a wheelchair, double shotgun, takes up the two guys who are gonna steal the loot off the docks, and then it's just like it was fun. The cops were not the idiots. The cops, the two cops, were actually pretty good. Andy, the guy who plays Andy here, this is his first movie. They were teaching him how everything while
he's a bit stiff.
Yeah, he is, which is okay because it makes Richard Jaeckel much even better, and that's what you want to do, And I was shocked that Richard Jaeckel was the main character. I thought it'd been Andy getting the vengeance, but Andy's just kind of like, don't tell Andy, okay? And then Richard knows everything by himself. Like, would have been great though, is if you had Ted Vollrath gets in a car and drives, and he's the chase scene at the end.
I marked for one scene there where after Mr. No Legs gets he gets lit up and shot, and so he just kind of like slumps over and he's dead and all that. And then they're getting ready to do they're revving up for like the 12-13 minute car chase scene or whatever. And I think they zoomed in right too, and I thought, oh man, if they did this again, that would have popped everybody hard, just as a, not an Easter egg, because I hate that term and I hate the idea of it, but they just focus on his hand near that's almost touching the ground, laying there lifeless or like that, like you almost see it twitch, but what it's doing is basically telling he's dying. I thought if it just did that little pinky twitch or whatever, like a Michael Myers thing like that, like maybe he's come back to life, maybe he's not dead, that would have been a great way to end it, like after the credits or that type of thing.
He's got bionic legs,
something. But he's sitting there and he's got the thing on his lap and then he takes it off and stands up. I mean, that would have been a bit much. But the thing with the car chase is that's a sweet ass orange soda kind of Camaro. I believe that's what it was, because the Stingray was the other car.
It looked like Pontiac to me, but
maybe it was a Pontiac Firebird. But when you watch this movie, one thing that's so great about it, you could say it's guerrilla filmmaking, because it's not sound studios, it's not this and that. They're just getting permits and probably even illegally doing some shooting, especially back then 50 years ago, and in smaller parts of the outskirts of Tampa. But when you look at everything going on in the background, that's really what it is, and it really feels that way,
Me just being a guy, being admirer of the female behind, there's a lot of that in this movie. They focus, even the cop whistles and looks at one of the girls and the nurse. You see him wearing the. That's some good-looking women in here, man.
There's one or two at the party. His girlfriend with the really horrible fake Gina accent from Miami Vice. She's not bad, even though sometimes you can see her mustache. That's a lighting thing. That's not a horrible. I don't mean it in a horrible, ugly.
As long as her mustache is not as big as mine, okay.
No, but the way it's shot, you're getting a lot of those. I don't know if you call them headshots or whatever, and you can definitely see how the sun's baked into everybody in this.
Yeah, and that's
everybody's pale today. Everybody's afraid of getting a tan. That's not a real tan.
It would have been great having a scene where there's alligators and they're just tossing people into the pool of alligators. But it's not. They make it look like it's sexual person, but it's gonna be with a dummy. But it'd still be great though, because here's the meat chunks and because you throw alligators in there, it's like, oh shit. It's this went from a 10, or a 4 to 11 for me. I love this.
So even though there was some gun stuff in here, it's kind of cute. He's like, oh damn it, I left my gun in the Camaro or like that. She's like, well, here, honey, take mine. And she opens up. She's got the little pearl handle job that he's trying to play.
The single shot.
Yeah, that was sweet, lovey-dovey. But here's the thing.
It would be great if she's like, here, go in the Detroit, and here's that. She's got a freaking dirty hair.
I know. No,
Right.
but it's the sexy
Uh,
one that girls would have,
yeah.
right? Up their leggings or whatever. So I thought,
Right.
oh, that's what a sweet gesture. His girlfriend, lets him use her gun, right? So that's cool. She came across as fine. Look,
Yeah.
this movie is what it is. It's a grindhouse flick. It's definitely a niche one. It's better than some stuff that I've seen over the past few years. We've done a lot of different types of movies. Some okay. I said being boring is one of the worst things you could be. At least if you're awful, it's evoking some reaction out of
Yeah.
you, right? And I know you and I differ on certain things that we like, personal taste, but we also try to talk about what's effective. This movie, whether you like this or not, I think achieved what it was supposed to be doing. It definitely has a gritty tone to it, not a goofy ass tone. This is no Black Belt Jones kind of smooth brother, kind of cool hip thing that you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is more of a like, they're really going to have a guy in a wheelchair whack people? How the hell can they do that and come across as being serious? And they're effective doing it. They minimize his on-screen time. It's effective when he's on there. They give you the martial arts angle to it, which to me you had to have in here. And even the cops, when they show up, there's no guns. They get into a big karate fight on the docks. So it's like, it may not be the best fight in the world, but at least it's something. And I thought, some of that might have been filmed on Davis Island or around some of the MacDill Air Force Base. I'm not sure. But I'm looking at it going, okay, the setting is cool. I mean, it's just not a bad movie. It's definitely a little bit of a gem that sometimes when we watch, we go, that's the one time I won't watch it again. This one, I could
Yeah.
see other people watch it going, hey, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, like I said, for those who are fans of the Bionic Man, or the Bionic Woman and $6 Man, you can't say this is any worse than that. So
yeah. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts, man. The Amazing Mr. No Legs, a movie I never knew about, never would have thought I would have watched, but I'm glad I did watch it, and it needs to be streaming everywhere. I need people to see this. People need to see this movie because it is right. You've never seen anyone like him. That tagline.
Yeah, and there's cheesy ass stuff on the tagline, but behind all that goofy stuff, it's kind of solid and serious for what it is. It's not a joking kind of movie. It's just not.
This is a movie poster I want to get and frame.
It's a great poster. It really sums up the movie, right? And
Right?
it's all him, which is the best thing about the movie. That's how great of an impact he had for maybe not even 10 minutes of screen time, I'd say, right? And his big scene, his big pool scene is great. It's the big boss fight everybody wants, and you finish it off with the big chase.
Well, he's on the ground with the legs like just in there. It's like, wah! I'm thinking like the guy's standing up. I'm like, kick.
Look, we talked about Rutger Hauer and Blind Fury being the best blind swordsman movie of all time. I know there's some original ones and older ones that might be really good. I know that
this is the best handicap movie.
Well, but that's the whole point. We've talked about old guys and fighting. We talked about Remo Williams with Snanju and the old guy Joel Grey in there. We talked about other types of movies. Jim Cotta, as silly as it is, with the pommel horse and taking on the ninjas, is a great canon film, right? It's not bad.
Like I said, that was one of the only movies that popped up similar to this. I was just like, man, it's
Ronya's bringing up a very obscure Dirk Benedict one, and I'm aware of that one, and I think that's different than one where he plays kind of like a Rambo character before the Rambo movie came out, or he's whacking people with that. And E will always say on his channel, if you ask him about the time he met Dirk Benedict, and Dirk's like, "Hey man, you want a photo?" He's like, "Sure." And they take one. It's like, "All right, that's $20." It's like he didn't say it'd be $20. It's like, bro, come on, you know what these guys are doing at these? Come on. That's what I think of with Dirk Benedict. He's not face. It's Ian the $20.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the one movie that was it Death Proof, the Grindhouse double bill, and I think it's the second half with the one. Well, there's the one that has the 3 hot chick stunt women in it, and then there's the one that has the chick with the cut off leg with the shotgun on it.
You're thinking of Grindhouse. There's Planet Terror.
Maybe it's Planet Terror is what I'm thinking
and
of.
then the other one was like with Death Proof.
But the one that has her leg has the gun on the leg.
That's Planet Terror.
So Planet Terror, I have no idea if this is inspired by this, but a lot of people are like, oh, that's such a cool idea, man. Only he could think of that. And it's like, no, come on. Look, I know you weren't the biggest fan of Bruce Lee, but that guy had the iron claw, right? That was kind of cool, even though you made it weren't the biggest fan of the movie.
He had a gun on her leg. This guy has no legs, and he still has the guns here. Tetra's wheelchair.
The shuriken that he had that he threw in the guy's throat.
He reaches down, grabs out the smoke, and then throws it.
I was like, oh, that's how he's gonna get it, you bastards. Okay. No, it's interesting. The guy was legit. That was pretty intriguing
Yeah.
about the movie. That's what drew me in. Plus the trailer. When you see it, you go, I must see this movie. Go see Mr. No Legs, everybody. All right, for RDV, everybody involved here on the Extreme Move Show. Thanks for watching, listening, and getting out. Anything you need to plug?
No, just guys need to watch this movie. If you haven't watched it, you're doing yourself a disservice. I know it's on Blu-ray for $28, but it's the best damn $28 you'll spend on a movie that you've never heard of. That's actually really worth it.
Good night now.
Good night, guys. Time to roll out.